pay the man tax. So this is the jizya, I think, as the Islamic world used to call it. For non-Muslims, they had to pay a special tax. And now for people who are not part of the progressive future, such as
The
men,
progressive ummah.
white people, if you're cis, if you identify with your gender,
Cis means not trans, by the way. So
Yeah.
it means you... I'm going to end that sentence there.
you're not part of the progressive world, so of course you have to pay a special tax. And we can see the examples here. So if we load this one up, you have Libs of TikTok saying a nightclub in the UK offered tickets to an event with varying prices depending on your gender and race. And they give us the image here, you can see. And they have a BIPOC only. What the hell does that even mean? I can't even remember. It's Black Indigenous People of Color. Indigenous. We don't have any American Indians in Britain. So the indigenous can only surely mean, I don't know, the Celts
was
and the
this in
Anglo-Saxons. This is in Britain. I mean, this is why the language is so foreign.
Great. So I get to classify as BIPOC in Britain now. I get the privileged rate, 1680 only. Fabulous.
I don't think they're going to see it that way, though, are they? So you have BIPOC only, queer women, trans and non-binary BIPOC. So human. £16.80 for tickets. You have allies of this race war they're hopefully fighting. White, trans and queer straight BIPOC women. £24.64 for a ticket for that one. So, and then there's straight cisgendered men, £112. Love it. Big old ramp up. That's the man tax right there. And as you can see, it's a bit weird. And people were thinking, why is that fake though? Because I mean, we've got like the dashes instead of full stops that we use, the pound symbols at the end. No, it's real. It actually is real. So if we go to the next link, you can see the post for this. The tickets are no longer available. Because
surely, hang on a minute. If you're having to hang around with all of those degenerates, then £112 is what they're paying you to attend to actually make it a party.
I have to deal with this nonsense. Did you know white men are the problem? Why did I pay to be here?
Sounds like a real party scene, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this is Pussy Palace, as you can see there, spelled with an X because we're edgy, I don't know. Or maybe it's because no one there can identify what they are. And they're no longer taking ticket sales, so unfortunately you missed the party in which you had to sit around
what a shame.
and be lectured. Oh, you're going to have to do other things, such as anything else. And so if we move on, we can actually see the company behind it called DICE actually have a website which I went to at the end of this. And it's their DIE statement, the diversity, inclusion, and equality, a platform for everyone, they label it, except white men. Or maybe they can come, but they have to pay a special tax. They say in here, we're dedicated to fostering a culture where everyone feels that they belong, except white men. Our aim is to make our company and industry fairer for underrepresented communities. So we will continue to hold ourselves accountable and make DIE integral to our business. The whole aim of the company is for making things fairer for underrepresented communities. And then they just have this stuff. They're just endless statistics
Stats.
about how they all identify. We don't do this as a company. We've never needed to.
I just must point out that the way that they organise their diversity, inclusion, equity is diversity, equity, inclusion, the acronym of which is DEI, which obviously means gods in Latin.
But I'm not
and these are rather the gods that they are pursuing, the carven idols that they've set up, and they will rearrange all of society based around these idols, and you can't challenge the idols. They're very interesting.
You can look at it that way, but I really do think it comes under DIE because I think they really just hate
I think
everyone
it's
who's
DIE
in there.
because of the death of society, but yeah.
I think they actually just hate the people who aren't them. So if we go to the next one, we can see Colin Brazier of GB News actually noticed this, so good boy. And as you can see here, him pointing out, a disco in London is charging straight white male clubbers 6 times more for being straight white males. And yes, and as you can see, the Daily Mail even picked up on it. But then there are people in his comments, specifically leftists, the kind of people who have he, him, or she, her in the bio, because you can't tell by looking at them. Yikes. And if we go to the next one, you can see someone going, a big old snort, and then going, actually, if you check out their FAQs before trying to start some fake Twitter outrage, you'll see what's really going on. Really, what is going on? What's the defense? And they write here, the people running the website, pay appropriately. We understand these categorizations can be anxiety-inducing for those who are still figuring out who they are or have low income, but even though this is a way to challenge the economic imbalance that our community faces, it is also just a guide.
Who is your community?
But also, you're not forcing you to. You can pay less, that's fine, but we've said that you have to pay this. That's not how the law works, honey. They continue, regardless of your identity, you should pay with your heart and your wallet, while keeping in mind that larger contributions supports PP's dream of being a sustainable and equitable black and brown, queer and trans, just take a breath, led space, and allows us to give free tickets away to low-income QTIBO POC. I'm assuming that's queer, trans...
Intersex.
Queer, trans, intersex...
Indigenous.
Bisexual
Maybe
people.
they've got the I and B mixed up the wrong way around. Maybe it's supposed to be QT BIPOC.
Queer, trans, indigenous, black people of color? I mean, how small are we getting now? I mean, what percentage of the population are queer, trans, intersex? I'm not even going to try. It's just silly. And then they end this off with saying, we do not police this. You make your decision how you feel you should pay, except on your website, you have to click a box about what you're going to pay. And you do say that if you are a white cisgendered male, you have to pay this. And if you are a black, trans, queer, person of color, more acronyms that you can count, then you pay 20 quid. So, no, this is not how the law works.
But it's one of the tyrannies, actually, of online forms. And I know that might sound like a grandiose statement, but in online forms, you can just design the form so that there is no conversation. You just have to do what you're told if you're applying for something like that. And that way it gets rid of all of the external complaints and issues and real concerns there might be. But
also, it's just obviously illegal. So we're not even going to have this conversation about morality because we don't even have to. Because, well, I think most of us agree on the morality of this anyway. Yeah, it's the weird fringe, as Trudeau would say.
Yeah.
And if we go to the next link, we can actually see their response to this, which is to double down. They're going to defend their position, even though it was pointed out this is clearly criminal. But whatever. So as you can see, the title here is Pussy Palace defends decision to charge straight men 6 times the door price. The promoters behind the event, who describe themselves as, quote, a small group of queer and trans black and brown slags, I'm not even joking, that's what it says, that's a quote, who love this work and do not have all the answers, said they stand by their model completely. They claim that straight men have harassed their guests and become violent against door staff when not adhering to the policy. Could you wonder why that is? Could you wonder why the straight white men who turn up hoping to go clubbing when they're told to pay 6 times
I just want to point out, it's not straight white men, it's straight men. So, yeah, there does seem to be a group of people, straight men, who are getting angry again with door staff when they're
Why do you say that?
up on this.
They do say white in the tickets.
I seem to remember it was, I don't believe white was actually in the 112. I think it was just straight cisgendered men.
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken, but someone can go back and check, of course. Yeah, there's the BIPOC aspect. So, yeah, it is white.
Right.
So they claim that straight white men have turned up and harassed them. I love how we told the straight white men you have to pay 6 times as much, and they got upset, so we were harassed. Pathetic. Their website says straight cisgendered men don't come unless you are down to pay £100 plus. But adds, we do not police this. You can make your own decision as you feel you should pay. Well, I could just pay £1, can't I?
But my understanding is that black and brown straight cisgendered men would also have to pay the 112. Even though white men are excluded from the BIPOC categorization, they're also excluded. But that's a point.
Maybe. I mean, we're dealing with the progressive stack here. It's not exactly a logical
but I can imagine how if you were a privileged BIPOC and you come to the door and you're being charged the white man fee, you might get pretty violent and angry.
Don't you know why he's black? It's no longer is I. It's because he's black.
Well,
don't you know why he's black?
There's the affront of being discriminated against when you thought you were higher up the stack and would get more privilege, and then your privilege is not being recognised. But in the structure, that would be angering to people.
But they say, quote, ultimately, we operate on a model of equity, not equality. And I think it's very clear from our support yesterday why it's needed. We have had straight men harass our guests and be violent towards the door staff. We're not adhering to the policy. It's a shame that's happened, but honestly, the ticketing tiers have really helped. Helped with what, exactly? Just creating racial division. I mean, you could actually argue that this does breach Britain's, the racial incitement laws. I don't know if gender incitement is a thing, but it, of course, breaches the discrimination aspect
of the Equality
laws.
Act 2010.
Of course, but also just the act that you could say, well, no, if you openly engage in racial discrimination in this manner, you're going to make people pretty upset about race relations, and that is racial incitement. So I'd love to see that also be thrown in the book of them. Quote, as for the criticism, I hope that people will take the time to evaluate why they are upset with us when we are just one club fighting to tackle the multitudes of disparities in our community that we face, and we hope this inspires people who are also creating spaces for people with protected characteristics. Protected characteristics! You know what they are?
Privileges?
Yes. But also as written in law, because she's referencing a piece of British law, for foreigners don't know, characteristics are race, gender, blah, 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 which includes white. So she is actually also inadvertently saying that I could set up a white club, as in a nightclub for white people. Well, no. It's not for white people. I'm not discriminating. Just white people pay £1, everyone else pays 2 million. But it's up to you how you want to pay. Club. But let's go to the next one because there's more on this. So this is someone, as you can see in there, who was trying to defend this, presumably one of the promoters or something. I don't know why they are jumping the way of this. And they say, the black people of color queer community is owed time to celebrate their lives when so much of it is spent having to protect, defend, and justify them. Okay, Jesus Christ, what are white men owed after the reign of the SJWs? Like, if you're owed the right to discriminate against everyone who isn't you, what are white men owed for what the SJWs have done over the last 20 years? Open discrimination, lost court cases many a times.
But the use of the word owed in this paragraph as well just really underwrites the fact that this entire ideology is based on grievance and vengeance. And honestly, you cannot build a positive worldview when the foundations are grievance, vengeance, resentment.
They're full of hate.
Yeah.
It's like the communists. They don't love the poor, they hate the rich.
Right.
And you've got the same situation here. They don't love themselves, they don't love their own community, they don't love their alphabet, simple as. No. They hate all the people who aren't part of the
Absolutely.
alphabet. Simple as. But if we go on, we can also see, I did notice that the venue itself was retweeting everyone who was defending them. So they were openly mocking the fact that they had been caught breaking the law and didn't care. And I don't expect the Metropolitan Police to do anything because Metropolitan Police are full of nonce protectors, apparently. So I doubt they have any care for this either. But it's just amazing that that's the society we live in, just openly flouting the fact that you're breaking the law. Why?
Yeah.
Because you know the police will defend you.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wonderful systemic racism.
do you remember the Edward Colston statue trial as well? The
Yes.
police will defend them, and the jury might even defend them as well if you get the right London woke jury. Basically, that's these people subverting all the institutions of this country to make it a miserable world. Enjoy.
Yeah, but that's the man tax, as you can see an example there in Britain. But there's also one more example I thought I'd go through for a laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Which is in Australia. So if we go to the next link here, this is a lovely story. It has a wonderful ending. So this came out a year ago, but we didn't cover it at the time. So Handsome Her, Australian vegan cafe to close after man tax furore. Handsome Her was accused of reverse sexism, otherwise known as sexism, after operating in Melbourne in 2017. Its owners provoked a debate by offering women priority seating and charging men an extra 18%. 1 week a month.
I remember that.
Yeah. Although non-compulsory, again, this is the weird defense of like, well, I didn't force anyone to pay the man tax. I just put it up that you had to. It's not a defense. When you go to court, you're not going to win. Simple as. So they say in here that it wasn't compulsory. It reflected the gender pay gap, the owners said. They have made an announcement in their decision on Facebook to close down their venue because it didn't work. It wasn't profitable.
I just want to say, I haven't actually heard the phrase gender pay gap for quite a while. It seems to have lost all of its power, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an earnings gap, not a pay gap.
Exactly. And people all understand that now. It's lost all of its power now that people know that it's nonsense.
Well, feminists are dead.
Yeah.
The
And
entire...
I suspect that the Jordan Peterson Kathy Newman interview may have played its part in killing that particular canard.
Sure. And they mentioned on Facebook about why they've shut down on their last day of business. The reaction to the man tax, quote, showed us how fragile masculinity is and solidified the necessity for us to confront and dismantle the patriarchy. Okay, bye-bye. Take your furniture with you.
Yeah.
You're writing this as you close down because you're not profitable. The real problem was the patriarchy, not the fact that I can't do business. I'm a retarded leftist. In another post on Facebook, the owners insisted they were not closing because of the vitriol from men's rights activists or because of anything else. They said it was because they're not making enough money. Right. Sorry. So, I mean, you did alienate all of your customers. So they denied reports that the man tax had run their business into the ground, saying they just don't want to own the cafe anymore. So I love, like, I set up a cafe because I was, don't worry, I was just pretending to want money. I don't want any money at all. I hate money. I don't want any money. It's like you can picture them crying where they're like, why am I in debt? Why am I going to have to pay £500,000 for this loan I took out? But then we'll end this off with one more story because this is all taking place and no one went to jail for this. I mean, sure, the Australians can BTFO themselves and the British, club can have no one attend who's interesting because everyone else is just going to be talking about
to be
their
honest,
gender.
I think they're doing a public service by keeping all these losers out of the other clubs, but that's my opinion.
But we can get some justice. And this is where I think, as we keep laying this down, we have to reckon with the fact that a civil rights movement is needed and taking place in the modern era for exactly these reasons, to combat the SJW in law. And as you see, so this is ad men sacked to improve gender pay gap win discrimination claim. 2 white male creative directors at a top London advertising agency have won a sex discrimination claim after a female director vowed to, quote, obliterate its Mad Men reputation of being full of straight white men.
Based. Sorry, something caught in my throat there.
So among them were 5 men who were axed from the agency, which is part of the WPP, because bosses urgently wanted to address its poor gender pay gap, a tribunal court has ruled. And you might wonder why on earth a company would ever do this to itself. Let's take the people who built the company and fire them, and they get sued because we fired them for being men. And, well, they actually give us a little rundown. And this is quite a tragic story, frankly, of just a company killing itself and the people in it. So the men were dismissed in November 2018, shortly after the firm revealed a medium gender pay gap of 44.7%. So they figured out that there was an earnings gap between different groups. In this case, it happened to be sex. And then they S the bed, because progressivism. A female creative director, Jo Wallace, was appointed to help the company shake off its reputation as a Knightsbridge boys club where white cis men create above-the-line advertising. Which apparently above-the-line advertising means advertising to the widest audience possible instead of specific advertising campaigns. So they were all about, hey, let's build a company on the basis that we have wide-reaching advertising, and they've built a successful company, but then progressives aren't happy about it. Therefore, we're going to bring in Jo Wallace to start batting down the white men who have built it. And what did she do? She organized a diversity conference entitled Crisis, the Mother of All Change. Great. She's already paying dividends, real making money here. At the conference, Wallace, who introduced herself as a gay woman, no one asked. She just can't shut up about it. Said, quote, one thing we all agree on is the reputation of JWT, once earned as being full of white British privileged men, has to be obliterated.
What's wrong with them being British?
I don't know what's wrong with them being men or white.
I mean, but I've heard them go on and on and on about the problem with being straight, the problem with being male, the problem with being white. But what's the problem with being British?
It's indigenous, and therefore has to go. After the conference, Bayfield 52 and Jenner 50, who the tribunal heard, are both white, British, and straight. So they expressed concern about the safety of their jobs. Which, I mean, you would, wouldn't you? It's like, we've just taken on this lunatic with pink hair who won't shut up about being a gay woman. I mean, I think she walked into the room and goes, hi guys, I'm a gay woman. Okay, gay woman. It's like Strong Woman from South Park. So that's her name. And she comes out and says, I'm going to obliterate all the white, straight British men. And the white, straight British men at the top of the company who have built it are like, crap, does she mean us?
Yes, she does.
Yes. Quote, I found out recently JWT did a talk off-site where it vowed to obliterate white middle-class straight people from its creative departments. There's a lot of worried people down here, writes the guys who were fired. The tribunal heard that bosses thought the men were challenging the diversity drive by writing that email. So they say, we're going to fire all the white straight men. The white straight men are saying, you mean us? And the response is, well, you're challenging diversity.
So...
Could you get the mask any more off?
And what did they do in response?
Oh, they fired them. Within 2 days of the meeting, it had been decided that Bayfield and Jenner would be made redundant.
Well, what was their crime? They were saying, hang on a minute, are you targeting us? That was their crime.
Yeah. As also being white, straight, British, and male. Because those are all things you should be ashamed of. That's how the law should work, according to the progressive left. And so they've won this case, so this is the justice in it.
Good.
The silver lining at the end. Bayfield and Jenner are in line to receive compensation, and the 3 other male creatives who were also sacked settled out of court.
Well, first of all, good for them for taking this to court, because I think in order to fight this progressive nonsense, we need to become far more litigious as a culture. It's something we shy away from normally, but I think there's no other choice. Otherwise, they'll walk all over you.
We have got all the tools. I mean, the law is the law. And until the progressives get round to butchering it even further, white men are still protected by the law. Men are still protected by the law. I think being British is also protected as an ethnic group under the Equality Act as well. And being straight, of course. So if you do have anyone trying to do this sort of stuff, sue the pants off them.
Yes.
If for no other reason, for a fat stack of cash. Because this is something that I would definitely, on our side of things, you know, the liberal side of racial politics, in which we don't care, and our side do have, as Harry Miller said when he sued the police for checking his thinking, a sort of a very British refined version to I don't want to seem like I'm just about the money.
Right.
No, I'm here for the principle. Nah, bugger that. Right, okay, you're here for the principle already because you're bloody winning, and you're right. Don't worry about that. Get the money as well because they have to feel that it hurts.
Yes.
And this is a great example. If they do this to you, if you're one of those people, even if you just brought a ticket to that event, regardless of what you paid, sue. You've got a case. You can make compensation, my friend. Call now.
Again, we don't give legal advice here, but the general principle, I think, is clear.
Well, my legal advice, and I can give this because it is as the law writes it, which is if you are discriminated against on the basis of your protected characteristics, you can sue for compensation. That is just how the law is written. Good luck, my friends. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this interview between James O'Keefe and Carl, I'm Sick of Whining, is this clip. And if you want to follow James O'Keefe on Getter, you can at James O'Keefe to keep up with everything he does on there. But otherwise, thank you and goodbye.